Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me and supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America.
I joined the Navy to serve my country as a Navy SEAL. While parachuting with my platoon, my parachute didn't open. I broke my neck. It left me paralyzed. Paralyzed Veterans of America was by my side from that moment on.
Since 1946, Paralyzed Veterans of America has kept a promise to our wounded veterans. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind.
Thanks to PVA, paralyzed veterans are getting specialized medical care and treatments, the benefits they've earned, the jobs they want, and the accessible vehicles and homes they need.
I just don't think my family would be as happy as they are without the support that I received from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Our veterans fought for us. Let's fight for them.
To learn more, go to pva.org today.
Anticipate potential delays for the morning commute. In other news, a recent government report on prescription drug pricing points to corporate
Freedom of the press is about your right to know.
What are you talking about, man? Look at his stats.
It's about your right to be informed. Your right to access all types of information keeps us free as a nation.
No.
Today, there are real threats to press freedom.
Reaching residential areas by...
And your right to know about the world around us.
Look.
Some threats are obvious, some are easy to miss, but they all put our way of life at risk. We must defend against all of these threats, no matter what kind of news is important to you.
Justified putting American troops in harm's way?
That's a great question.
We must protect our right to know before it's too late. Understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org.
I'm Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me and supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America.
I joined the Navy to serve my country as a Navy SEAL. While parachuting with my platoon, my parachute didn't open. I broke my neck. It left me paralyzed. Paralyzed Veterans of America was by my side from that moment on.
Since 1946, Paralyzed Veterans of America has kept a promise to our wounded veterans. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind.
Thanks to PVA, paralyzed veterans are getting specialized medical care and treatments, the benefits they've earned, the jobs they want, and the accessible vehicles and homes they need.
I just don't think my family would be as happy as they are without the support that I received from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Our veterans fought for us. Let's fight for them.
To learn more, go to pva.org today.
With SRN Sports, I'm Andrew Stewart. Yesterday's baseball winners, the Oakland A's, topped the Texas Rangers on an emotional day in the Bay.
Mason Miller throws a 1-2-3 ninth inning to help the A's edge the Rangers 3-2 in the final game at the Coliseum. Miller recorded the save, striking out the first two batters of the ninth before inducing a ground out for the final out in Oakland in front of a sold-out crowd of just under 47,000 fans. Manager Mark Kotze addressed the fans after the game.
Thank you all for loving the game of baseball. Thank you for your lifelong support of the Oakland A's.
The A's completed a 57-year chapter at the Coliseum, which included 4 World Series championships. I'm Denny Kapp.
Yesterday's other American League winners, Detroit, the White Sox, and the Yankees. Yesterday's interleague winners, Kansas City and Miami. This is SRN Sports. Yesterday in golf, the U.S. dominates the opening day of the President's Cup tournament in Montreal, Canada.
It was a clean sweep for the powerful American team, winning all 5 opening day football matches to take a commanding 5-0 lead. The international team struggled all day, and although they briefly let in 2 matches during the back 9, couldn't get one of them into the clubhouse for a win. U.S. team captain Jim Furyk was naturally happy with the start, but cautioned about getting too far ahead.
Tough matches. I mean, a lot of them were one up even the whole day. Our guys played great on the back 9. So I saw the internationals lip out a bunch of putts, a bunch of really good putts that coulda, shoulda, didn't go in. I think that was the difference in a lot of matches.
I'm Graham Agars.
Yesterday's NFL winners, Dallas over the Giants 20-15. Yesterday's hockey preseason winners include San Jose in overtime. With sports, I'm Andrew Stewart.
Here's your look at sports and weather update.
That was your look at sports. Now here is Brandy Gregory in the Weather Center with your 3-day weekend weather forecast. Hey, Brandy.
Thank you, Sean. Good day to you and good day to everyone. I'm Brandy Gregory with your 3-day weekend weather report brought to you by the Growing and Flowing podcast, hosted by yours truly. On my podcast, I love to connect my present-day experiences to my childhood to get a better idea of who I've been, who I am, and who I am becoming. So if you would love to give me a listen, I am available on any platform that you get your podcast on. And if you would like to support any of my future endeavors, go ahead and shoot me something over to my official Cash App. That will be $ growing the letter N flowing pod. Now here's what's happening in your local area. For Friday in Atlanta, we have a high of 74, a low of 67 with a chance of rain for 85% of the region. The area will be experiencing effects from Hurricane Helene, who touched down in Florida as a Category 4 hurricane Thursday night. So stay safe. For Saturday, we are clearing out. We have a high of 78 and a low of 62. And rounding out the weekend for Sunday, we have a high of 78, a low of 63 with partially sunny skies. Once again, I'm Brandy Gregory reporting live from the Weather Center. Stay tuned for more news, sports, and weather reports at the top of every hour on Podcast FM 87, Reach One Network, and Honey exclusively on Roku.
Welcome to Therapy Ain't No Joke. Good evening, good evening. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you so much, Brandy Gregory, for that 3-day weekend weather report. It is now time for Therapy Ain't No Joke with the architect, Sean Garvey. Make sure you follow us on all social media at The Mental Space Live. If you are a first-time listener and or a viewer, this is the show in which we talk about all things considered mental health in our community. And like I love to do on every of my broadcasts, and shame on me for just a moment because I missed an episode or two from doing this exercise. And what exercise am I talking about? I am talking about my breathing exercise. That's what I love to do to help me manage my mental well-being. So let's do it all together. Let's breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. That was just a quick breathing exercise I encourage everyone to do on a daily or regular basis. If you feel like you are having some sort of anxiety or panic attack, or if you're feeling depressed, isolated, any of the above, or whatever you're feeling at that particular point in time, I want to implore you to do that, to help you manage your mental well-being. Got a very special guest I'm going to bring on to the program in just a few moments, but I also want to employ you on doing something that is just as important as that breathing exercise. And that is to donate to the radio podcast. It is both a radio show and a podcast. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please donate whatever you can to the platform. Whatever you donate will help us continue to give you great programming and great content. like the one that you're watching right now, therapy ain't no joke. And let me just take a moment on how important it is to donate to the platform. Let me talk to my African American community real quick. One time, we talk so much about giving back to the community. We talk so much about we got to support each other. We got to support one another, right? But then when it's time to make a donation or to put the information out there for you to help monetize that person's brand or product, crickets, grasshoppers, or you would spend it on a particular platform or entity that may not empower you or may not put money back into your pocket or may not support your mental well-being. I'm just saying, don't, just a public service announcement by yours truly, Sean Garvey. All right, so this is very vital, ladies and gentlemen. Please donate whatever you can. Cash App, $Reach One Communications to support the content, or you can go to our website, reachoncommunications.com, and click on Donate Now. We do have a GoFundMe campaign that is going on right now. Once again, that is Cash App, $Reach One Communications to support the content, or go to reachoncommunications.com and click on Donate Now. It is that simple, ladies and gentlemen. It is that simple, okay? So do it right now while you are watching the broadcast. You all will be empowered and enlightened. And I'm going to give you all some information on how you can access resources for you or someone you know and love that are in need of some assistance for their own mental health, okay? All right. Therapy ain't no joke. The Mental Space Live, that is our social media, ladies and gentlemen. And the music theme that I am going to be playing throughout the entire broadcast, which you are hearing right about now, is courtesy of Ray Melody. Shout outs to Ray Melody, who is traveling right now. Big shout outs to you, Ray Melody. All right, we're gonna bring on her credentials in just a few moments on how you can follow her. But big shout out to her. All right, let's go ahead and get right into the show, ladies and gentlemen. 12 minutes past the top of the hour. Also, we're broadcasting live on Honey, as you can see on the right-hand corner of your screen there. Honey, download the app onto your Roku TV or Roku TV device. We are also syndicated on the Flow Television Network, as well as on YouTube, Instagram at Sean Garvey ATL, and on Facebook. All right. This gentleman that I'm going to bring on the show tonight, he is a certified peer specialist, a forensic peer mentor, and founder of Greater On Demand Consulting, LLC. I had an opportunity to chop it up with him this past summer, and he has a story to tell. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jameel Goodman, a.k.a. RASTA, or Mr. Goodman. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Mental Space.
What's going on, brother? How are you? Peace to the people.
Doing good, doing good. Glad to have you on the show. I'm going to bring you closer here to the public so that they can see both of us there. You're blurring a little bit, but we'll work with what we have in the meantime, between time. All that matters is that you're on the show this evening. Like I like to, at the beginning of the show, whenever I bring a important guest to the program, I like to ask, how is your mental health?
Overall, I'm well, even through the trials and tribulations of life that we go through, but persevere through it, stay focused, and remember all positive vibes the best I can. Give the grace and glory to the Most High.
Yeah.
Do what it do.
Yeah. Last week, I had a woman come on and she shared a very powerful testimonial story. And for those that missed it last week or didn't catch the rebroadcast yesterday, you can check it out on demand. We're going to have that information at the bottom of our screen in just a few moments. But I want to use this platform to not only give people information, but to allow powerful people like yourself, Mr. Goodman, just to share your testimonial story about your mental health journey, what you've been through, and what have you. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I had a chance to chop it up with you very briefly at a retreat this past summer. And for those that do not know what I'm talking about, it was a retreat where I was invited to be one of the keynote speakers at the event. And this is, of course, courtesy of the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network. Big shout out to the organization for allowing me, and of course you, Mr. Goodman, and many others for attending. And I want to start off by asking you the event that we've all been a participant of. It was a great experience. It was my first time. I'm from Georgia, by the way, from Atlanta, and it was so good and so a very beautiful moment to go to Jekyll Island and that part of Georgia where we were like in a very peaceful environment setting. We were near a beach. We were on a resort. And it was just very peaceful, and it was just that environment. It was that atmosphere where we just got away from the hustle and the bustle and everything else that could be a distraction to many of us as we're on this path to our own mental well-being, whatever that framework looks like. What did you take away from the retreat that we were a part of this past summer?
Well, one of the main things I took away was meeting wonderful people such as yourself. I also met a couple of pioneers in the field that I'm in, being a forensic peer mentor. Some of the ones that were part of the first cohort and the pilot. So for those to be in the room with legends, it was definitely an honor, and to see how far it's come and all the work that they put in. Knowing that I'm following in those footsteps, putting in the same work, if not more, hopefully more, to make a greater impact. And being in that peaceful setting, just as you said, like trees everywhere, water, just the setting itself created a vibe where we could all mix and mingle and elevate together.
Yeah. And I said to myself that this would have to be my hangout spot. Back in the day, right, when we were in our teenage years, going through our whole adolescent stages, our hangout spot were the malls. It was the club or wherever we chose to go and hang out with our friends and everything, right? But as you get older, you get tired of the clubs. You get tired of the nightlife and the malls and all that stuff, right? As you get older, because now you got responsibilities. And this is where mental health comes in, because as an adult, when you have all these responsibilities and everything, you're not focusing or you're not tapped in to what you used to do in your teenage years or in your young adult years. You're trying to figure out how I'm going to put food on the table, or how I'm going to get this paid off and that sort of thing. And to be in that atmosphere at the time, for the retreat and everything, it gave me a sense of clarity of where I need to go and the type of people that I need to surround myself with and what I need to do when I come back home to Atlanta. And I'm glad you shared that with me, because I think it was very important that all of us that attended that 3-day retreat take something important away from the festivities that took place there in that environment. Would it be fair to say that?
Absolutely. Like I said, the things that I learned there in some of the workshops that they had set up. And one of the workshops, it was specifically speaking basically in the field of mindful therapy and being able to acknowledge your thoughts. But what I took from it is not just acknowledging your thoughts, but acknowledging that everyone has a mental health issue, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
A lot of us were raised with mental health issues, not thinking that it was mental health issues, simply just thinking that we were being loved, that we were just growing up and living life. So to be able to go to these workshops and take something, like you said, back and then bring it into the field of your work, or apply it to your family, or just mainly apply it to yourself and grow. Awesome experience.
Yeah, I want to circle back to what you just said in a few moments, but let's talk about your upbringing in Brooklyn, New York. Let's talk about that. What was like for you growing up in Brooklyn, New York?
Well, for me, it was a challenge, but it was a peaceful challenge under the circumstances. See, sometimes growing up in certain environments, things just seem normal until you get older and realize it's not. So, coming up, I was a latchkey kid, like 7, 8 years old. I'm riding the city bus by myself, got the key to the house, go home, open the door, make sure nobody following you. Like, my mama trained me a certain way on how to travel the bus, how to travel the train, because she had to go to work and work 2 jobs. You see what I'm saying? So there was no school bus for me. My school was on the other side of town. So when you come home, don't just go to the door, go upstairs to the next floor to see if somebody following you. Then wait a minute, then walk back down, then go open the door, go inside, lock it. Then once I get in, I gotta clean the kitchen. I gotta clean the bathroom. I gotta cook dinner and do my homework. Don't answer the phone or the door for nobody. And this is at 7, 8 years old, like literally, not figuratively. So going through that at a young age, having adult responsibility, so to speak, and then being a product of the streets to a large degree. Like, my mother did the best she could, ain't no question. Salute to her. Me being in the streets and having to fight, fend for myself out there, and catching on to certain ways and watching what's going on. And like, I want to do that. So I started doing graffiti. That was one of my outlets, besides fighting. Not realizing, why am I fighting? Like, what am I fighting for? Like, what's going on with me? I never knew then. But as an adult looking back, I knew that something was wrong. But as a child, I thought it was normal. Writing on walls, hanging off buildings, on the top of trains, in between moving cars, in the tunnels, like the stuff that people have seen on TV. Like, I've actually done that. So growing up in that atmosphere, it created, at some point, literally a monster that I deal with to this day. I've gotten better at it, but I'm long away from the result that I really require, that allowed me to be the best version of me, as well as a better influence to my family. So, growing up like that was something serious.
Let me ask you, just a few moments ago, you said, of course, thank you so much for expressing that to us, and having to be instructed and assigned to do these things at home and still going out and running the streets. Some people will look at that and say you was brought up in a strict household. Some people would look at that and say that, or look and interpret it that. And what I've learned from talking to people that went through the same atmosphere, that went through the same challenges as you, they said, because I was brought up in a very strict household, I was limited to doing this, and doing that. It gave me a sense of rebellion. It caused me to be rebellious against my parents because I didn't have that freedom. I was strict, and I went out and did the complete opposite. Do you think being brought up in that household and having to, do this and do this and do this in home, did growing up in that quote unquote strict household, did it cause you to be rebellious at the time?
Absolutely not.
It was the
My mother did the best. My mother did the best she can. She was a great mom to the best of her ability, because there's no handbook for being a parent. So it doesn't matter how many children you have, you still trying to figure it out and do the best you can. So but she attempted to be dad too, but the fault, my streets was my dad. I didn't go out there to buck because I was locked in. No, I did what I did because literally looking back, it was a choice of curiosity. It was something I wanted to know, something I wanted to be a part of. Like, okay, what's going on out here? Street light come on, I gotta be inside, but I'm hanging out the window like, why is everybody still outside? Like, what's going on? What's interesting?
Yeah.
So that's where sneaking out the house come in. Okay, I'm going out. As soon as she go to sleep, I'm out. Through the window, down the fire escape. Going through the back of the building and come back up front to go out and stick something in the front door so I can make it back in. Hopefully somebody won't walk in and knock it down, and then I'm stuck trying to figure out how I'm gonna get back in the house. So it was never me rebelling against structure. It was general curiosity of me saying, I want to know what's going on out there.
That sense of curiosity. Yeah, I think we've all had that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mine was strong. I've always been a thinker. I've always been an analyzer. Sometimes I analyze too much. However,
you know what they say. That's it.
Say it again.
No, I was going to say, you say you analyze too much. Do you think you would see like too analytical at times?
Not when I was younger, but more so probably now in certain circumstances that don't need it.
Okay.
You know, like my job requires me to be analytical. And what helped me in my job is actually my street life. Literally. As what we call in the profession, our lived experience. It's our lived experience that qualifies us to be in the position that we're in. It's my lived experience that allowed me to be a certified peer specialist in mental health in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
So it's because of my upbringing, what I went through, the way I went through it, the ways to overcome it, and the constant form of recovery in mental health that allows me to be the professional that I am. And at the same time, learn when it's time to seek my own professional help.
Yeah. For those who are just tuning in, we are talking to certified peer specialist, forensic peer mentor, and founder of Greater On Demand Consulting LLC, Mr. Jameel Goodman, a.k.a. Mr. Goodman, a.k.a. RASTA, live with us here on the Mental Space. You talked about graffiti, right? And it's so interesting because, you know, being that I am somewhat of a connoisseur of hip hop. You know, me and my co-host DJ Roland from the Beat Break Morning Show. That's another show that I do outside of therapy, and we talk about all things hip hop a lot of times, right? And we talked about, you know, hip hop, especially in the birthplace, of course, Bronx, New York. We talked about the culture and how it begun, and that it not only at that time, you know, during the beginning, the golden era, what, you know, the OGs and the pioneers call it the golden era or the pre-golden era, how hip hop saved lives, but also provided an alternative to people who were about that life. And graffiti is a part of the 5 elements of hip hop. Right. And so when you talked about the things you were doing in the streets and also doing graffiti, that kind of somewhat kept you out of trouble, but it didn't really keep you out of trouble a whole lot. We'll get into that in just a few moments.
Right.
But graffiti is an art form that still exists to this very day. And I think, I thought you was about to show me something to our viewers here.
Yeah, I was, but it's the virtual background that won't allow it to show. So what I'm gonna do is when I get a chance, I'm gonna send it directly to you, so you see a little bit of my work. I still got it.
Nice. And we can share it on our social media and on our Facebook pages as well, including on our Mental Space page at the Mental Space Live on Instagram. But do you think at the time you became a part of hip hop, became a part of something very special by dabbling into that type of art form?
In my own little way, yes. In my own little way. It was my form of expression. It was my form of the culture. At first, it just started out as everybody else doing it. It looked good. I draw good on paper. Let me see what I could do on a wall. Let me see what I can do on a truck. Let me see what I can do on a train. But as I looked more into it and did more studying and you remember back in the day when they had what they called the black book, where you got your book and you gave it to other artists and you got to put their pieces in it and things of that nature. So when I started getting into that and going to stores where they had pilot markers, paint markers, different caps for your spray can, is when I actually was like, yeah, I can actually do this for the culture, not just for what I started out for, because this is bigger than me. This is a movement. It's a way to express myself and express the art that dwells within me. So absolutely.
Yeah. You said something that was very interesting as well, seeing other people do it and you say, hey, that looks cool, I want to do it, right? And what I find to be very interesting is that us as a people, we're like very profound innovators of all things art and culture, but we also follow trends at the same time, and we see somebody that's doing it and we want to be a replica of that individual or do the same thing that person is doing. And so have you ever thought, as an individual who loved doing this, doing graffiti and being a part of the culture to some extent, have you always felt like, or have you looked back in time and felt like you was just doing, you wanted to do what everybody else is doing, or you wanted to be your own person, you wanted to be your own man, you wanted to be your own leader?
Up until 5 years ago, maybe 4.5, I was always self-motivated. So anything I did, if I saw somebody do it, so let's just say I see, for example, I see you do this podcast. You excellent at it. Okay, what does a podcast do? What is it for? What's the function? Okay, I want to do one, but I want to do it better. So how can I do it better? So when I first started out like doing graffiti, it was like, okay, they doing it, I want to do that too, because I can do that, but I want to do it better. I want to do it different. How can I have one up? So it almost like I was always in competition with myself, because I never felt like I should actually follow anyone. When everybody was rocking 8-ball jackets, I went back to wearing a sheepskin. Why? I want to be different. I want to stick out. I mean, when everybody was still wearing Yankee fitteds and it was a trend, okay, I went back to fedoras, Kangos, just because everybody was doing that. I did it every now and then to see what it felt like to, okay, so this is why they do it. Okay, that's all right, but it ain't me. So a lot of times it was really trial and error and experimenting.
Yeah, I was like that too. So you remember, I'm an 80s baby, and I didn't really start following the trend of what everybody else was doing all the way up until maybe like the mid to late 90s, especially the late 90s, when you had this plethora of different Black fashion designers coming out, and it was the time of the FUBU era, the FUBU, the Fat Farm, and all these different name brand clothes that came out, right? I mean, even Tommy Hilfiger. And
do you remember 555 Soul?
What is it called?
555 Soul, 555 Soul.
I'm trying to I vaguely remember. It'll come to me in a moment. It'll come to me.
It was a throwback.
Super throwback. Now, you know what? Now it just came to me. Okay, because I was like, when did I hit it? Oh, because it's been such a long time, right? And it was just that period of time where you just wanted to fit in. You just wanted to be a part of the crowd, because you didn't want to just be a standout and not be looked over. You know, because you can imagine, even for me, I can just speak for my experience and maybe to yours as well. I had a lot of anxiety coming up, you know, especially social anxiety. And I wanted to do things and wear things that people will look at me very differently in a very positive manner. Like I wanted to fit in. So I felt like, okay, let me go put on some FUBU. Let me go put on a Tommy Hilfiger or a Fat Farm or, you know, these name brand clothes. Let me go get those new Jordans so that I could
Calvin
fit
Klein.
in with the crowd. Yeah. Yeah. And then
Dan White.
yeah. You know, how did that, I mean, I know you said you stood out from everybody else that wanted to do what everybody else was doing, because that was the end thing back in the day. But if you were to do what everybody else was doing at the time, how would that make you feel as a person? Would it make you feel like you had to do this to be accepted by a circle, by a society, by a group, or you would just do it because, okay, let me just see if it's for me. If it ain't for me, it ain't for me.
More so that. To be honest, I was never the guy to try to fit in. I just couldn't do it. Like I gave it a shot to see, not to fit in, to see if it does fit me. I don't know. Is this a route I can go? Let me check it out. So people wearing this, I ain't never really wore that, but I give it a shot. Let me see how it work on me. Let me see how it fit. If it fit me, I'm gonna rock with it. If it don't, I'm not doing that. And that's where, between how I grew up and the violence that I grew up in, inside my house and outside my house as a child, that made me want to not be a part of certain things. And if you didn't like what I was doing, it was F you. And what you want to do? Win or lose? Let's go. I'm going to hit you first. You're going to hit me first, or we can swab it out, have a nice little fade and get it over with, or whatever. And that's what made me usually have my own lane, so to speak. So either I was going to kick it with people and be me, or y'all was going to be in my circle, or I'd be by myself. Because I've never been a follower. I've checked things out, but as far as following, no, I'm not going to do that. So it was always just to figure out, is it me or not? And if it's not, I'm not sweating it. Okay, you can tease me, but guess what? They're going to tease you too with this lip. They're going to tease you too with this fat lip. They're going to tease you too with this black eye. They're going to tease you too with this split nose. Yeah, I was going in your mouth. That was the mentality I had starting to grow up. It's me or nothing. It's me against everybody. If you're not with me, you against me. And me as an adult looking back, that was a serious mental health issue. And I wasn't, this stuff started like when I was 7, 8 years old. It took me till I was about 43 to recognize why I was angry so much. Why I was mad and didn't know it. Why I was in my feelings and didn't know it. No matter what classes I took, no matter what I learned, no matter what I did, it was to no avail. Kind of like, this is the example I like to give people. Picture of a person shot in the arm and in the leg. They don't see the one in the arm, they see the one in the leg. So they go clean it up, stitch it up, patch it up, keep it clean, and every day clean it. Do what they're supposed to do. Let it breathe during the day, during the night, cover it up during the day while they're moving, but still trying to figure out, why are you lightheaded? Why do you still feel certain pain? As if this wound is not healing. It's because you don't know that there's another wound there. Then when you figure out that there is another wound, you have all the techniques that you have learned prior to patch this up. The only difference is the wound been there so long, it's gonna be a scar forever and an ugly one. So now you got to face that. That's part of the personality and mental development that we go through, going through stages of mental illness due to being possible products of our environment, or just simply a product of your own choice, because we all do have a choice at the beginning and end of the day, whether we realize it or not. Mm-hmm. So that led to my mental illness. I go to recovery, and sometimes I host recovery groups, and people say, well, man, I suffer from heroin, and I suffer from crack, and I suffer from fentanyl, and I suffer from alcohol, I suffer from sex and overeating. And when I tell people what my addiction was, they look at me like I'm crazy. And they say, well, sir, Mr. Goodman, what's your addiction? Violence. Trained to go at all times and give to whether it go there or not. That's how I was brought up. And that's how far into the streets I was, to the point where me at all costs. Still be respectful, still be mindful. Don't sugarcoat nothing. Don't be fake about nothing. And watch it back at all times. It was like football. You always got to be on the swivel. And growing up like that until my incarceration, it molded me, but it made me the respectable professional animal that I am now, because I can talk to people and see people, and I can see if they're being honest. I can see if they're lying to me. I can see it afar off. I can see that the direction I go, maybe 30 seconds to 2 minutes of a conversation with you, I could pretty much identify who you are, and even if I want to talk to you ever again. Because rewinding in my past, my life depended on that. If you can identify the circumstances in 30 seconds or realize what's coming at you before it even get there, you're dead. Or the people around you are dead. So what I like to do is I like to take my mental illness and my misbehaved choices in my past and apply it to my profession to make me who I am, so I can be the best version of me, and realize that I don't have to resort to those things. I don't have to be a part of those things or fall victim to them things, as long as I'm in a sober mind. Don't be intoxicated by anything if it's not love, if it's not positivity, if it's not greatness. I tell people full honesty and transparency is what I expect for them, so I give it back. I had what they call a setback in the recovery world. I had a setback recently. Acted a complete fool. To the point where it was shameful.
Let's do this.
I ain't never been ashamed.
Yeah, let's do this, Mr. Goodman, because you touches on some heavy points. This is your documentary. I call this not just only therapy, ain't no joke, but this is a documentary for people like yourself to come on and tell the story, because I want to rewind the tape just a little bit and start from where we know how everything started, where it started, but we also want to talk about you entering into the system and what caused you to go into the system. But let's take some calls. I'm sorry, not calls, but let's go to the message board here. I'm still thinking I'm on terrestrial radio, but we are on Honey and on the Flow Television Network. So big shout out to everybody that's checking in by way of YouTube at Beat Break Radio or at the Mental Space Live, as well as Instagram Live. We're going to look at some of the comments that we're getting from people that are watching us in real time, Mr. Goodman. So let's go over to Shamika Brady. What up, Shamika? I'm hoping I'm saying your name right. I guess she wanted to tag Robert Mans McConeyhead, if I'm saying that right. But okay, big shouts to Shamika on the check-in, watching us live. Let's go over to the person that Shamika tagged. Robert says, wonderful. And he also goes on to say, sharing the message, team, I hope in his house. Big shout outs to Robert. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I did say her name correctly. So big shout outs to Shamika on the check-in. Thank you so much for watching us live. We really appreciate the support. Also on the check-in, big shout outs to Caribbean Life TV on Instagram at Sean Garvey ATL. Make sure you follow us there. Caribbean Life TV says great conversation. And Caribbean Life TV also goes on to say very interesting topic. Very interesting topic. So appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone so far checking in via Instagram and on YouTube. And while you're checking us out, make sure you hit that Cash App. Got to remind you all, support the content. Cash App, $Reach One Communications to support the content, or go to reachoncommunications.com and click on donate now. You can donate even if it's 50 cents, 45 cents, 30 cents, $1, don't matter. Just as long you show some support to the machine. All right. For those who are just tuning in to the Mental Space Live on all your platforms, wherever you get your podcast and your streaming content from, we're talking to Jameel Goodman, a.k.a. Mr. Goodman, a.k.a. RASTA. He is a certified peer specialist, forensic peer mentor, founder of Greater On Demand Consulting, LLC. He is hanging out with us to tell his story about his mental health journey. Tonight's showrunner is Street Life to Peer Life. All right. So great segue to mention tonight's showrunner, Street Life to Peer Life. Let's take it back to the streets of BK, Brooklyn, New York. Okay. You talked about the graffiti part, and you talked about a little bit of some of what you got yourself involved in the streets. Yeah. What happened next that landed you in the system? Let's talk about that for a few moments.
Okay. Well, for those of you, first of all, before I touch on that, I want to say, for those of y'all that have a heart, donate. I mean, if we can go buy alcohol, if we can go throw money in the strip club, if we can buy cigarettes to kill ourselves, I'm pretty sure we can give $1 or $2 to a movement that'll help us as a people, to help us grow, spread knowledge of mental health, and let it know how serious this really is. Please know that everyone that's listening, not listening, seeing this later or now, you have a mental health, you just don't know it. Okay, you have a mental illness and don't even know it. However, that is an interesting story. Left Brooklyn when I was about 18. Moved to South Carolina, Conway, South Carolina on the map. Shout out to everybody in Conway, Myrtle Beach, where all of what made me as a street person in Brooklyn went to Carolina and epitomized. What led me to my first stint in prison. My first was a state bid in South Carolina. I was initially charged with attempted murder. They were breaking the charges down due to evidence, lack of evidence, and it ended up with assault and battery with intent in a high and aggravated nature, and a first-degree burglary that dropped to a second-degree burglary. Let me clarify something. I ain't never stolen nothing in my life. If I wanted it, I took it. In that mind state, burglary charge constituted in South Carolina is an unwanted entry after dark. So this is how it went. I was at work. Someone I knew very near and dear at that time came to me and said, somebody put their hands on me. So got off work, didn't leave early, got off on time, pulled up to the person's house, knocked on the door. They ain't answer. All right. I'm driving off, they come outside. So what I do? bust a U-turn, go back. So I said, "What's up, homie? What you got going on?" I said, "You like putting your hands on people, woman? Like, who do that?" Now, if you hit your own, that's on you, but you shouldn't. I've been guilty of stupid stuff like that at one point in time. Shame on me. Live stream, shame on me. However, me and him end up fading out. All right. I hit him, he hit me, I hit him again. He fell, he got up, he went in the house. I'm talking trash, he ain't come back out. I got in the car, leave. So I leave, go run some errands. I go to the gas station to get something out the gas station. Maybe about an hour and a half later, a van rolled up. Extremely fast. As it's rolling up, sliding door opens. I don't know who it is. So I jump out gripping. For those of you who are not ebonically correct, I jumped out with a firearm in my hand. Not knowing who it was. They jumped out. I'm glad I caught myself in time because those were family members, my own. They said, "Hey, old boy said, next time he see you with your son, you better be holding." I found that to be odd. Me, you had an issue. You're sending a message saying, "Next time you see me with my son?" Really? My son's like a couple months old? Really? Okay. So I go slide, get one of my homies. I pull up down there where he at. I told my homie, I said, "I don't want you to put no work in for me. You just hold me down, make sure nobody don't run up on me. I got everything." I run up in the house. I seen him in the room. And I commenced to pistol whipping this man. Beating this man. Senseless. Splitting his head open, all kind of stuff. So I go to put the pistol to his head and pull the trigger, and I hear somebody say, "Yo!" I beat him some more. I go to put the pistol back to his head. I hear somebody say, "Yo!" I said, "You live today." So I walked out the house. Come to find out, my homie that was with me was screaming, "Yo!" but he wasn't even in the house and couldn't even see me. So at this point, I do know it was the creator on my side. That wasn't my lane. That wasn't for me to do, because he still had more work for me to do. And that would have ruined my life. I'm gonna tell you why. The mentality I had then, that's how you know it's a mental illness. It's a sickness. And it's a cancerous buildup of a sickness when your mind thinks like this, because you're in environments where your life depends on it. Because come to find out, besides that guy, it were 3 other people in the house. Now, if I'd have shot this man, I'd have had to shoot the other 3. We run out of there. When we get to the car, I see 2 people walking down the road towards the car. Bear in mind, if I just did this in my mind back then, I'd have had to shoot them 2 people too. Now, if this so-called homie didn't shoot any of them, he'd have had to put a bullet in one of them, even if I'd have shot them anyway. And if he didn't, I'd have shot him too. Because you're not finna have all these bodies on me and you get caught up in something and now you want to tell on me and I got 38 life sentences. So I might well eliminate everybody. That was the mind state. That was a sick mind state. Long story a little bit shorter. He get caught up. Mind you, I went to get him. So in my mind, he got caught up. He didn't say nothing. I went downtown to free him. I said, man, he came to help me. I went and got him. Let me go free this man. So I went down there and I said, are y'all looking for me? What's your name? I told him my name. They were like, yeah, we wanted you for some questioning. I said, about what? Well, we heard this, and this. I'm like, no. I said, that didn't happen, but this happened, and the person y'all got ain't got nothing to do with it. I said, huh? He ain't got nothing to do with it. I don't know what y'all got on him, but as far as this circumstance, he ain't got nothing to do with it. They kept him anyway and charged him anyway. Charged us both as co-defendants. all boiled down, lack of evidence, this, that, and the third. They gave me 5 years. So I did 2.5, 3 years off of that. The irony, those 2 charges are violent charges, but in South Carolina, they carry non-violent time. Had they carried the violent time as a violent charge, I wouldn't be sitting here with the opportunity to speak to y'all now. So I know the Most High plan was in place. And that was just the first bid that I did.
And this all took place when, how old were you? You was 22 at the time, right? Younger or older?
22. I had just
22. Yeah.
Just turned 22 that July. I got jammed up that November, and when I got locked up that November, I didn't see the streets again for like 2.5, 3 years.
Wow. So we're talking about the time where you had to miss out on Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas dinners and New Year's and spending time with your child and spending time with your family. I mean, a lot of memorable stuff you had to miss because of this ordeal. And, you know, having all that built up in you to do what you did at that time, you know, like people do things that are premeditated, and people do things from the sense of, I don't care what happens to me. Like, I got a reputation to protect. I got to protect my family, whatever the reason was at the time. Like, people feel like in that heat of the moment, they have to do what they have to do for whatever that reason was. So what were, prior to you getting into that situation, what was going through your mind at the time? I mean, you obviously you was confronted before that whole ordeal, but what was running through your mind at that time before that incident happened?
You mean prior to me going to see him?
Yeah.
Right. Simply, I fear no man. You bleed like I bleed. At that time, it's just my mental. You bleed like I bleed. Like they didn't stop making guns when you got one. They didn't stop making knives when you got one. And my heart bigger than yours. It's never been with me about living up to a reputation. It's always been more, I'm gonna be me, and if I'm doing this and this is the life that I'm choosing, I'm just gonna be the best at it. I'm not gonna let nobody stop me. You're not gonna disrespect me and get away with it unless I let you get away with it, and it's only for a time being. Because if you did it once and I let it go, all right, cool. If you did it again, there's no letting that go. I'm not gonna let you play me like that. That used to be my mindset. Prior to me actually physically going to see him, it was more so of I could see if you'd have sent the message saying next time you see me, you was gonna do something. My mind state then, I'd have seen you first. I might not have seen you that night. But the fact that you said your message was, next time, tell him next time I see him with his son, he better be holding. Oh, so what me being with my son got to do with anything we got going on? I got something for you, homie, because that we not gonna play. My mind state was completely on, I'm going to eliminate you, with the intentions of eliminating it, with all intents and purposes. Because you threatening to kill me in front of my son, and the message that you sent, what it translated to me was, you're gonna wait until you see me with my son to do this. Do you know how traumatizing that would be for my son?
Yeah.
It's traumatizing enough for me to go to prison and be out of his life, let alone for his father to get murdered in front of him. No, we're not going to do that. Huh? I don't know who you thought you was talking to, but at that time, I'm cut like that. And I'm going to come see you. And we're going to see who walk away. And my words to him when I ran in that house was, I'm holding now what you want. I use vulgarity, and I don't want to be too vulgar on the show, especially on the professional level that I've reached now. I think vulgarity is, to a degree, is beneath me. However, I had some choice words when I went in on. I said all F's and P's and B's and all kind of stuff. I'm holding now. Now what's up? I ain't got to have my son for you to see me. I'm right here. Man, I'm sorry. I ain't mean to. You ain't mean to what? I ain't trying to hear that. I beat that man to sleep and woke him back up. He ended up getting staples in his head when I got done. I wasn't playing with that man back then. Not for what you said. You must have forgot who I was. Well, at that time, I would say, you must have forgot who I am. You better ask somebody about me. I don't do nothing to get a reputation. My reputation is built just off of me being me. I've never been that guy chasing a reputation. I just was me. And you're going to respect me. I'm going to give it, and you definitely going to give it back. So that was my choice.
Yeah. Mr. Goodman, we're at the top of the hour. Do you have time to stick around? I want you to finish your story. It's a very compelling story. I want to talk about your time incarcerated, and I do want to circle back to a couple of things that you said. We want to, of course, discuss your setback that you mentioned briefly, and the whole thing about people coming into the world with some form of mental illness. I want to peel the layers back on those two different tangible items that we briefly discussed earlier, but we're going to circle back to that. Once again, for those who are just tuning in, this is Therapy Ain't No Joke. I am the architect, Sean Garvey, and I am speaking with the certified peer specialist himself, also a forensic peer mentor and founder of Greater On Demand Consulting, LLC, Mr. Jameel Goodman, also known as Mr. Goodman, a.k.a. RASTA. We have more right here on the Mental Space with Sean Garvey. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back after these messages. And in the meantime, go to our Cash App, $Reach1 Communications on the Cash App. And we do have a GoFundMe page on our website, reach1communications.com. We're going to have that up in just a few moments. But in the meantime, let's take a break, and we will be right back with more Therapy Ain't No Joke right here on Honey and on the Flow Television Network and wherever you get your streaming content from. We will be right back after these messages.
I'm Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me and supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America.
I joined the Navy to serve my country as a Navy SEAL. While parachuting with my platoon, my parachute didn't open. I broke my neck. It left me paralyzed. Paralyzed Veterans of America was by my side from that moment on.
Since 1946, Paralyzed Veterans of America has kept a promise to our wounded veterans. We will never leave a fallen comrade behind.
Thanks to PVA, paralyzed veterans are getting specialized medical care and treatments, the benefits they've earned, the jobs they want, and the accessible vehicles and homes they need.
I just don't think my family would be as happy as they are without the support that I received from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Our veterans fought for us, Let's fight for them.
To learn more, go to pva.org today.
Anticipate potential delays for the morning commute. In other news, a recent government report on prescription drug pricing points to corporate
Freedom of the press is about your right to know.
What are you talking about, man? Look at this stats.
It's about your right to be informed. Your right to access all types of information keeps us free as a nation.
No.
Today, there are real threats to press freedom.
Reaching residential areas by...
And your right to know about the world around us.
Look.
Some threats are obvious, some are easy to miss, but they all put our way of life at risk. We must defend against all of these threats, no matter what kind of news is important to you.
Justified putting American troops in harm's way.
That's a great question.
We must protect our right to know before it's too late. Understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org.
With SRN Sports, I'm Andrew Stewart. Yesterday's baseball winners, the Oakland A's, topped the Texas Rangers on an emotional day in the Bay.
Mason Miller throws a 1-2-3 ninth inning to help the A's edge the Rangers 3-2 in the final game at the Coliseum. Miller recorded the save, striking out the first two batters of the ninth before inducing a ground out for the final out in Oakland in front of a sold-out crowd of just under 47,000 fans. Manager Mark Kotze addressed the fans after the game.
Thank you all for loving the game of baseball. Thank you for your lifelong support of the Oakland A's.
The A's completed a 57-year chapter at the Coliseum, which included 4 World Series championships. I'm Denny Kapp.
Yesterday's other American League winners, Detroit, the White Sox, and the Yankees. Yesterday's interleague winners, Kansas City and Miami. This is SRN Sports.
Here's your look at sports and weather update.
That was your look at sports. Now here is Brandy Gregory in the Weather Center with your 3-day weekend weather forecast. Hey, Brandy.
Thank you, Sean. Good day to you and good day to everyone. I'm Brandy Gregory with your 3-day weekend weather report brought to you by the Growing and Flowing podcast, hosted by yours truly. On my podcast, I love to connect my present-day experiences to my childhood to get a better idea of who I've been, who I am, and who I am becoming. So if you would love to give me a listen, I am available on any platform that you get your podcast on. And if you would like to support any of my future endeavors, go ahead and shoot me something over to my official Cash App. That will be $ growing the letter N flowing pod. Now here's what's happening in your local area. For Friday in Atlanta, we have a high of 74, a low of 67 with a chance of rain for 85% of the region. The area will be experiencing effects from Hurricane Helene, who touched down in Florida as a Category 4 hurricane Thursday night. So stay safe. For Saturday, we are clearing out. We have a high of 78 and a low of 62. And rounding out the weekend for Sunday, we have a high of 78, a low of 63 with partially sunny skies. Once again, I'm Brandy Gregory reporting live from the Weather Center. Stay tuned for more news, sports, and weather reports at the top of every hour on Podcast FM 87, Reach One Network, and Honey exclusively on Roku.
Thank you so much, Brandy Gregory, with that 3-day weekend weather update. Good evening. If you are just tuning in, this is the second hour of Therapy Ain't No Joke. You can check out the first and second hour on demand after tonight's episode has ended on Honey and on the Flow Television Network. But you can check it out immediately on demand on YouTube at Beat Break Radio and at The Mental Space Live. I am Sean Garvey at The Mental Space Live on all social media. And I am still hanging out with my special guest, certified peer specialist, forensic peer mentor and founder of Greater On Demand Consulting LLC, Mr. Jameel Goodman, a.k.a. Mr. Goodman, a.k.a. RASTA, as we're talking about street life to peer life, and we are having such a very, very powerful conversation regarding his upbringing, his struggles, his challenges, to now helping his community and people that are dealing with some form of mental illness and on the track to having a better mental well-being. So let's switch gears and talk about your time being incarcerated. Of course, we talked about your upbringing. We talked about some of the challenges that you went through growing up in the streets of Brooklyn, New York. And we also uncovered what happened that led you into the system. Let's talk about what series of events that you went through first prior to you going into the system. And what I mean by that is, like, what did you prepare, or what did you have to prepare yourself to get ready to be locked down and to be within that system for that amount of time that you spent?
There was nothing to prepare for in my mind at that time, and that was just the story I just told. What a factual story I just told. That was my first bid. There was no preparation. I mean, I went to court. You know, you go back and forth, you get motion of discovery, stuff like that, look at the evidence and all that. But in my mind, I'm back here, and I'm a fight to get out. However, if I go, I go. I mean, to me, there was no preparation. Like, I knew what I was doing. I've never, when it came to the streets, I never did anything when I was in my feelings. I did it because I wanted to do it back then. Because the stuff that would be done back then, to go to prison for life, 20 years, 30 years, for doing something that dangerous and that detrimental and that intentional, and you be in your feelings, that would eat at you the rest of your life. Sadly, even though we're talking about my past, in recent events, I've done some things, and it's like, that wasn't, I was in my feelings. I was under the influence of alcohol, and you just don't think, you're not mindful. So to get back on topic, there really wasn't nothing to prepare for to me. Either I was gonna do time or I was gonna go home. I was back there. Was a lot of guys, oh man, I want to go home, and I want to go home, and I don't want to do this time, and I don't want to go home. You had people who told, you had people that didn't tell, but it was all hollering, I want to go home, man. Man, what about you? Look, I would love to go home. However, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. There was nothing to prepare for. Like, it's kind of like a guy or a female who's out there in the streets and they slanging and doing all of this, and then when you get caught and this system is threatening you with all this time, you act like now all of a sudden you sorry. For what? You wasn't sorry when you was out there slinging that poison. You wasn't sorry when you was out there shooting people, stabbing people. You wasn't sorry then. You did it. You was a little scared. You did it. You got away with it. Now you with your friends laughing about it. So when them people come to you about it, why are you crying now? Why all of a sudden you want to go home? All of a sudden now your family matters. Oh no, my children. Oh, my old lady. I need to be there for my children and my lady. I need to be there for my children and my man. You didn't give two things about that when you was out there. Because you thought it was fun and games. Until the people start saying 30, 40, and 50 in life. 15, 20, 25. No. So to me, at that time in my life, there wasn't nothing to prepare for. I knew what I was out there doing. I know what I did. I knew what I was getting into. So it was either go home or go do that time.
And it sounded to me, from what I'm hearing, it sounded to me like you took full accountability for what happened and for what you engaged in. And, you know, a lot of times when I hear people who have been in the system or incarcerated, they put the blame on not just only the system, they put the blame on the environment, they put the blame on the parents, they put the blame on whoever they are associated with. You know, like there's this thing called snitching, right? That still exists in today's world, in today's society. And and you know, they snitch to prevent themselves from either doing time or to get a lesser charge or to have less time in the system. But it sounds to me, like I said, you took full accountability for what you've done, and whatever happens, happens. And that everybody else, they can, you know, do this blame game or whatever they want to do. But you made it in your mind very clear that, hey, you know, I done this, I'm doing the time, it is what it is. And some folks who have came out of prison, like, what's so interesting, I remember I did an interview with Travis Barber. Shout out to him. He was on the news earlier today. He's doing some amazing things in the community. But he went by the name of Trap back in the day. And when I did the mental space on 1380 WOK in Atlanta, I remember interviewing him, and we were talking about people in the system being institutionalized and coming to the realization that, hey, you know, this is home. This is home to me. Like, I accept whatever happens. Or when they get out, they take everything that they have been accustomed to or they have learned with them outside. Do you feel at this moment in time, do you feel, even though you only spent a few years incarcerated in the system, do you feel like you have become institutionalized, or it is just, or do you feel like you're, you know, fully rehabilitated to where institution or being institutionalized is not even a thing in your mind? Like, what do you feel about that?
Well, when I got off of that bid, I wasn't institutionalized. When I did my second bid, and the amount of time that I did 12 years on the second one. So when I got out, I was definitely institutionalized. Statistics say that a person that does that much time, it takes them at least 5 years to pretty much recognize and acclimate back to society with no forms of institutionalism. I remember clearly within my first couple months out, I'm at Kroger's doing some shopping, and I literally had a meltdown and cried. Literally just broke. Because the person I'm with was like, get whatever you want. Get whatever you want. You ain't got to get that. Get whatever you want. Because I found myself getting the same thing that I was getting when I was incarcerated. Soup, peanut butter and jelly, tuna, bread, crackers, Jack Mac, honey, 5-minute rice. Only the things that was available on commissary. And they're like, get what you want, get what you want, get what you want. And I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, I just did 12 years. I don't know what I want. I didn't have access to this. I don't eat meat. Haven't eaten meat in over 20 years. So I don't know what I want. I froze. I had a moment where when I got out in Walmart, a guy cut in front of me. Now you know that's a no-no in prison, especially if you're at the right prison. It's definitely no-no. So he cuts in front of me. I walk up to him. I said, "Excuse me, bro, you don't see all these people in this line? Don't you think you need to get to the back of the line? And all I got is these two things. No, all you're going to have is this whooping if you don't get back, though. Find somebody to play with. What are you doing?" And everybody got quiet. Him and several other people started backing up. I wasn't yelling or nothing. But what caught my attention is the movement. I'm still institutionalized. There's a confrontation. There's too much movement going on. So I take a couple steps back and I look around and I'm watching everybody stare at me. And I just happened to catch this one person that looked down. So I looked down. I had a knife in my hand and I didn't know it. I had a work knife, a clip on my hip. But before I knew it, I had already popped it out and was that close to him just in case he tried something. Because back there, you don't have no time to be trying to pull it and have it out and all that. If you're going to do it, you're going to go do it. There's nothing to talk about. So before I knew it, I looked at the man. I said, "I apologize. Do what you want to do." I left the groceries and all, and I left. So institutionalism, yes, is real. I've been home now maybe a little over 5 years. I still have moments of institutionalism. They're not bad, but they can get bad. I'm in a space now where I'm learning how to be a witness to my thoughts and to my feelings. What does a witness do? They just see. They just watch. They don't comment. They don't get a part of things. They don't indulge in certain things. They just let whatever it is, they seen it. That's what it is. But more so, I want to be a witness to my thoughts and my feelings. Because if I'm witnessing my thoughts and my feelings, that means I'm not in them, possibly causing chaos and destruction, especially to me or the ones that I love. I think I've done enough of that in my life.
Wow. I'm almost speechless by what you just said just now, of being in that space of where things could have really, really gone further left if it escalated to something that could have put you back in the system to where you probably would not see the light of day anymore. And I don't think people really that's watching right now and that never experienced prison life. I never been to prison, nor jail. Even though I have came this close to going to jail, and that's a different conversation for a different day. But in situations where you're in the heat of the moment and that decision that you make that could put you in the system for whatever time, and it can be over 5 years, depending on the extent of that situation, and becoming institutionalized. I don't think people, Mr. Goodman, I don't think people really understand that when you become institutionalized and you experience that taste of freedom and you take everything that you absorb in the system with you, it could be that one person, it can be that one thing that he or she may say that can remind you of what it was like in there. It could be that one thing that he or she has done or that they said that could trigger, and I know that's the buzzword that a lot of people use nowadays, trigger somebody to be put in that position again. And I commend you first and foremost for finding an alternative route to get out of that situation that happened between you and the other individual inside that store. But at the same time, people would have to understand when watching this show, and why this show is very important, is because you have so many people that come out of situations and they are brought into the world of reality and dealing with people that could remind them of their past. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to necessarily be prison life. It could just be being in a toxic relationship. It could be something that happened to you in your childhood, being brought up in a dysfunctional household, and you dealing with people. And so let me ask you this, because coming out of the system and, with that experience that you endure, like, how do you deal with different people that you encounter? Because you're not going to meet or come across everybody that's like a Mr. Goodman. You know what I mean? Like, everybody may not be on the same wavelength as you or the same frequency as you, because everybody is different. Everybody speaks a different language. How do you go about dealing with different types of people, especially coming out of that situation in the grocery store? I'm just curious to know.
Well, for me, that's the easy part. I would have to say, and I'm gonna tap back right on that. The difficult part at this point in my life is me seeking help for me. That was the difficult part of my life, realizing that I was given a talent by the Most High. A way to relate to any age group, talk to any age group, guide any age group, probably give them the best advice in the world, probably the best counselor in the world. However, I was attempting to use my advice on me, not realizing on a greater plane, on a spiritual plane, that my talent isn't for me. It's for everybody else. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I had to almost lose everything that means something to me, everyone that means something to me since being out of incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
Had to be this close, like a grain of sand, close to losing everything. And it still might be in the balance. But I'm dedicated to showing, improving, not just to myself, but to my loved ones and my families, that I can be the best version of me, that I can be all the man that they see in me. Yet that does not take away from the hurt and the pain that I've caused in people's lives. Intentionally, unintentionally, right, wrong, or indifferent. Because it's not about right, wrong. It's about how you've affected other people in your life. And you have to make the necessary adjustments. So when I meet people that's not like me on a professional level, it's easy because they expose themselves to me. So I know how to deal with them accordingly. According to my job, it's easy because I can relate to them easier than they can relate to me. So I can allow them to relate to me just by me being me. Allowing my lived experience to be the guidance that other people need, be that mentor that they need. In order to be that, people have to relate to you. They have to know that you comprehend where they've been, that you have some type of empathy towards what they've been through and what they're going through. So that's how I do what I can to relate to others, to the best of my abilities. Sometimes it's right on the head. Sometimes it's not. And sometimes it varies depending on the relationship between you and the other. Because sometimes when relationships are closer, it does get hard because you still trying to find you and please others within respects. So it just varies. It varies on relationships. But overall, I relate pretty much to everyone and be able to convey that. I'm just in a stage in my life where the same things that I'm doing for other people, the advice that I'm giving other people, what I've been doing is seeking that for me. Shout out to Bishop James V. Drayton out of Florida. He's a bishop down there, wonderful man, excellent man. His ministry is amazing. Very, very, very close to me, near and dear. Gives me great advice, helps me. Not sugarcoating nothing. And it's very fair. He's not biased. He's not going to take the man's side, the woman's side, the child's side, down the middle. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. And he's to let you know, I'm not here to call you wrong. I'm just letting you know what's going on. And high regard, high respect. Also, shout out to Bishop Kevin Brooks in New Jersey. Wonderful man. I talk to them too on a daily basis because I realize iron sharpens iron. So if I'm a piece of iron sharpening everybody else, who's sharpening me? Yeah. Where am I taking my blade to? And that had been my hiccup for quite some time. So hopefully I can continue to be sharpened as I sharpen others and be the best version of me, so I can be the best dad I can be, the best granddad I can be, the best great granddad I can be, and the best husband that I can be, because my wife deserves the best.
Yeah. We at the bottom of the hour. Therapy ain't no joke with my special guest, Jameel Goodman, also known as Mr. Goodman and RASTA, certified peer specialist, forensic peer mentor, and the founder of Greater On Demand Consulting LLC. Get those comments in and hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel at Beat Break Radio or at the Mental Space Live. We're at the bottom of the hour. Therapy ain't no joke. Speaking of therapy, right? And you mentioned those setbacks about, going back into the system, to confronting the person in the grocery store. And we don't have to necessarily rewind the tape again and talk or dive more into what led you back into the system. We don't have to do that. But I would love to know, some of the things that you experienced that made an impact to your mental health. What were some of those things, like anxiety, depression, isolation? What were some of those things that you was experiencing during lockup and after you left the system?
Well, really the things that I experienced during incarceration was basically, it was street life, but behind bars. Really. Same thing that goes on out here in the streets, it goes on back there, just more so hidden. A practice hiding to the point where sometimes people hide from themselves. Me, I just continued to be me and just made the decision to be a better version of me. So I started reading more. I read when I was on the street still, but just read more and was dedicated more to being the best version of me, even though I still had ill-mannered thoughts. Because my first 3 years was very and highly aggressive and getting into things. I've been in several riots, I've been in several places because my second stint was federal. They can send you all over the United States. So I've been in several places. I've also met a lot of wonderful people while incarcerated, and I've actually seen them, been with them, hung out with them, and done business with them since I've been home. So there are select few wonderful people. Shout out to James Frazier. Shout out to Antonio Letario. Wonderful men. The things back there that you see if you're not really strong to change your life, man, I mean, you got guys back there who are full blown. First and foremost, is clear statement. I have no problem. They live their life. It's on you, or to you. No discriminatory statements or anything. Love your life. That's for you. It's statement based off my life experience and what I've done and what I've seen. And I've seen men that are incarcerated back there are homosexual or participating in homosexual acts. And on the weekend, we'll go on visitation with a woman and their children. Like everything is okay. Say that he's coming home to her. While back there, he's sharing a room with another man and they doing whatever they're doing when they're I've seen people just hang out with the wrong person and get stabbed up and die. Crushed with a lock and a sock on their skull just because they was talking to the wrong person. You could be in the unit watching TV and a riot kick out on the yard, but at the same time, it done transcended into every unit, and now it's a full-blown riot on the entire compound. Certain groups you hang with, certain people you hang with, certain people from certain states you hang with, and it can get real ugly really fast. So really, it's a street life behind a wall, unless you choose different. And even in choosing different, you still have to engage things a certain way. There isn't just no, oh man, I'm gonna live straightforward and I'm chilling, man. I ain't bothering nobody. Or you going to church, or if you're Muslim, you going to Jumu'ah. If you more Science Temple, you're more, you going where you supposed to go. But at the same time, you still got to carry yourself a certain way, because anything can come your way and you got to handle it. You got to deal with it accordingly. So I just did everything I could to read, elevate, grow, praise the Most High the best that I could, yet still had to maintain a certain level of respect. Well, don't try me, and if you do, something come behind that. To the point where there were times I've had hundreds, if not thousands of people behind me. So if I move the wrong way and they got this much respect for me, they willing to ride too. So now I got to be responsible. If I go and this man's around and kill somebody, he lose the attachment to his family and gain more time, and they ship him far. So I wasn't just responsible for me, I was responsible for many others. So the transition from the street to prison and then back out, you have to find the time to be able to filter out the reality of your home. You don't have to live that life no more. Even though it's not a tough guy persona, you don't got to be that tough guy no more. And honestly, my wife tells me all the time, you've changed. You've gotten better, but it's certain stuff you just don't have to do. You don't have to think like that. And she's been the best eye-opening, awakening person in my life. And even her being the best version of her that she can be, sometimes I still fall victim to stupidity. And in turn, hurting my family. So, like we keep reiterating, mental health is serious. Mental illness is serious. Especially if you're dual diagnosed. So that means you've been diagnosed and you're on medication and still going through recovery. So, people have to realize, man, recovery is real at work if you work it, but you got to figure out how to work it. It took, like I said, it took me almost losing everything I got just to figure out how to work it. That's sad, even as a professional. I have the ability to change lives and change people, but fall short to some degrees in some areas in my own life. I mean, hey, got to be more careful.
Yeah. I want to go into your profession in just a few moments. I do want to take a moment to just piggyback on what you said earlier about people coming into the world with some form of mental health illness or mental illness, if you will. There are people that walk around and say, well, I don't know what mental health illness is, or I don't know what mental illness is. I've never been depressed, or I've never been in a situation or in a circumstance where I feel like I need therapy. You know, there are people that think like that, that have said that. Why do you think in your profession, and just from what you experience and what you've been through, why do you think people tend to reject the fact or the reality or what could be a form of mental illness? Why do you think people reject that at times?
Well, several things, but I'll give you this example. One of the recovering moments in recovery is recognizing what is called negative self-talk. Okay. Negative self-talk begins to create a certain belief system in a person. That belief system builds their perception on how they see things and how they perceive things and receive things. So when the truth is introduced, some people reject it because that truth shakes their belief. And anyone who's leaning on something so hard and so strong, the threat of it being shaken to the point where they'll feel lost, no, they'll reject the truth first, because it'll destroy their belief and in turn destroy the complete ability on how they see things, making them feel like their whole life either they've been living a lie or now they feel lost because they don't know what to believe in, opposed to learning how to believe in themselves. Fact by the numbers. There was a study done. But let me ask you this. Do you know on average how many thoughts a person has a day?
That's a great question. Yeah, I just throw out a number, like at least 30 to 50 times a day. And I could be wrong.
The average person, now I'm giving you facts. The average person has 60,000 thoughts a day.
I was way off. 60,000.
60,000. 80% of that 60,000 is about 48,000. 80% of those thoughts are negative. 95% of the 48,000 is repetitive negative thoughts. Now, hold that for just 1 second. Do you know on average how many breaths a person takes in a day?
How many breaths a person take per day? I'm going to go with 700. That's my guesstimation.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, the average is about around, on the high end, 24,000. On the high end.
24,000. Okay.
Keep in mind, the average person, 85% of the population don't breathe correctly as it is. That's one. So take those breaths, right? 24,000. 24 and 24 is 48. Let's go back to the original about the thoughts. 48,000 are negative. So if you kind of do the average, a person has 2 negative thoughts per breath.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Wow.
Based off of negative self-talk, downing yourself, questioning yourself, not trusting yourself, insecurities, anxieties, people growing up saying You ain't nothing. You ain't never gonna be nothing. Why you do that? You're dumb. You're stupid. You need to stop that. You never gonna succeed by doing this. And that becomes your belief system. So when people speak the truth to you, it begins to shake and you automatically reject it because now it's removing everything you've ever known.
So
that's why the elders, that's why the elders prior to us always said, keep your head up, think positive. Just stay focused, baby. Be positive. Because they knew the power of positive thought and positive speaking into your life. And it'll change your life. So the reason a lot of people reject these things or go through these things is simply because they've been bred to build their entire belief system on negative self-talk.
And do you think today's societal norms, when we have conversations, Mr. Goodman, about social media and just from what we consume with music and entertainment, and even in the political election season that we're in right now, we're only less than 40 days away from the big day. Are those contributing factors, or do you say, or would you think in your own personal or professional experience, those could be contributing factors to a person's negative way of thinking?
Absolutely. Social media is a gift and a curse. The gift of using your voice and using a platform, a wonderful platform like such as this, to bring help, to bring new ideas, spark new ways of innovating interests into mental health and delving or diving deep down into a culture and inside of people. So opportunities like this and platforms like this, the gift. The curse is now anyone can reach you at any time and continuously build on negative self-talk and tear you down at any moment and cause you to possibly have the delusional thought of killing yourself, like they do to these children. Like bullying, cyberbullying. You have predators who are on social media that would probably have never been able to reach this child, but convince this child to sneak out their house and meet them down the block. And now a child is missing. People hacking into webcams and watching people in their homes, spying on people in their homes. They need people to go to work and come home, and that person is sitting in their house in their closet. The curse of it. So I think even though there's great opportunity for social media, the effort that people put into misusing it definitely contributes to that.
Now, we only got a little bit of time left, Rasta, right here on Therapy Ain't No Joke. And this has been a very great show. I'm glad to have you on. Let's talk about, absolutely. Let's talk about the profession that you're in right now. What is the Greater On Demand Consulting? Like, what do you want people to know about your organization and what you do? Because what you do is very paramount. And I've seen the results and I've seen what you've done, but fill us in on what you do with that and what you offer to people.
Well, Greater On Demand, it started as an acronym. God, being in as a man, being in your God state, your God mentality. And with that, what comes is you become greater on demand when you follow the guidance of the Most High to the best of your ability. So what do we do with being greater on demand when the Most High acts? Technically, when we witness to people and we minister to people, we're consulting people. So I had the idea, well, and my wife as well, she supports me, and I'm very, very grateful that she's in my life and supports me the way that she does in my dreams. Greater On Demand Consulting LLC is a consulting company that helps allow people the opportunity to have the support they need in forms of peer support. Also, we deal with conflict resolution, anger management, mindful therapy. Also, we dive into being like life coaches. We had a job not too long ago, hire us to train their leads on how to recognize the potential in their workers, be able to see conflict before it happens, learn how to speak to people without placing blame, learning how to develop a team instead of separating a team, being able to identify people's strengths and their weaknesses and know how to use people in the areas that you need them. So it's a multifaceted company. There's an attachment to that company, a DBA, which is called Divine Creations Inc., which is ran by my wife. Designing of arts and crafts, light catering, dealing with parties and banquets, also all the way down to minimal things as far as making baskets for occasions. It's a wonderful creative company that has done multiple things, also gives back to the community. So it's a lot of great things coming from Greater On Demand because it's part of our life's dream. As a professional labeled as a forensic peer mentor, my job in short is to support a person in being the best version of themselves, meeting them where they are, being that bridge that they need in the life of recovery.
Mm-hmm. Where are you at in your therapy? And what I mean by that, and the reason why I asked that question is because you brought up names, especially people that are currently in the ministry. You even mentioned your wife a few times. Do you look at them as your therapy? And if not, what is Mr. Goodman's therapy at this moment? Like when you bring up, and I'm gonna just repeat because I accidentally put myself on mute here, but when you bring up your wife and many others, like what is your therapy, or do you consider them to be your therapy at some extent?
My bishops, the bishops that are in my life, under the guidance of the Most High, they're my therapists. My wife is my peace. I can't sleep if she's not around. I don't eat unless I'm around her. She's my all, she's my everything. Even in my shortcomings and my disappointments, she still goes out her way to show me how much she loves me and how much more is inside of me that she's waiting to come out. So she's my therapy, she's my peace, and the bishops are my therapists under the guidance of the Most High. I think that's and my grandchildren. My children are wonderful. Huh?
No, I just said the family tree. The family tree.
Yes. My grandchildren, they're my peace because I get a chance to apply all that I've learned in life on them. My children are my peace in the sense of watching them grow, watching them mature, and watching them be parents and be aunties and uncles. That's where my peace is. So that's my therapy.
Mm-hmm. Looking back at your life, because we uncovered a lot of things, and I've learned a lot more things about you, Mr. Goodman, from your upbringing in Brooklyn, New York, to being about that life a couple of times that landed you in the system, and a few setbacks that you had in life to where now you are doing a service to the community. And when you look back at your life to where you are at now, what comes to your mind?
Never thought about that. Me looking back and looking now, grateful. Grateful for the opportunity and the chance to give back, to be better, to do his will, to be obedient. When I was incarcerated on my last bid, I told the guys back there, I said, one day I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do it the right way, and I'm gonna help. And when I did it, they always told me, they said, you ain't gonna do it, you can't do that, that's impossible. But the select few that believed in me, this is part of their dream too, because I do have the opportunity at times to go to a prison and talk to the guys and give my testimony and let them know how important they are. Just because you got locked up, it doesn't determine who you are, and these are not the end of your circumstances, and that there's greater out there than you can ever imagine if you just apply yourself and be the best version of you. I was where you at. The only difference between me and you is I took my second chance to be the best version of me, and your second chance is just waiting for you to get out.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you want to leave the viewers with, or what else would you like to convey to a person? I mean, even a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old, he's watching this, she's watching this, and they're about that life. We see it a lot of times on social media. We hear it in the music, and there are some folks that could be watching this right now that are planning to go out and do something that they know ahead of time that could land them into where you was at before. What do you want to leave people with before we exit out of here? Like, what do you want to say to that individual, to that young man, to that young brother, to that young sister that's watching right now?
I would tell them something that was never told to me, which is the key to being the best version of you is believing in yourself even when nobody else does. Knowing that if you have to question doing it, don't do it. If you have to think about the consequence of something that heavily, don't do it. If you're doing it in your feelings, don't do it. Learn how to think instead of trying to figure out what to think. Be the best version of you even when nobody can't stand you. Just make sure it's in a space that makes you better, that takes you further, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Because in any other direction, it's definitely going to be your pitfall.
Wise words from the one and only Jameel Goodman, Mr. Goodman, RASTA to a lot of people. So, certified peer specialist, forensic peer mentor, and founder of Greater On Demand Consulting LLC. You wear a lot of hats. If anybody want to work alongside with you, or if they want to come and see you, or have a chat with you, or talk to you, or just need somebody to talk to or talk with, what do you want to let them know? How can they get in contact with you? What information can you give to our listening and our viewership? what do you want them to know about the organization? And are you accepting any volunteer applications? Like, what's going on with your organization? How can they get in contact with you and all that great stuff?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not taking any applications right now. I'm in the process of working with the upcoming sheriff and the upcoming commissioner of District 3 in the city that I'm in to take on projects in the community attacking gun violence and gang violence. So that's what will prolong that. However, if anybody wants to reach me, Rossfire 5150 is my Instagram. You're more than welcome to contact me on there. You can Google Greater On Demand LLC Consulting LLC. It lets you know my hours of operation and the business phone number. You are more than welcome to call that number to get in contact with me or set up an appointment. For those of y'all who are really in the need of assistance in some form or fashion, you can call me at 478-501-3815. Text me, contact me. If you're looking to be the best version of you, I will do everything I can to help you and direct you in the right direction. Or you just might be the person to help me be the best version of me. We'll never know until we have that opportunity. Got a lot of big things in the making, and I hope that anyone that has any kind of insight or any kind of influence and have the drive to be the best version of them and change other people's lives and make things better, contact me.
Can you repeat that number one more time? I want to have it up on the screen for our viewers to get in contact with you.
478-501-3815.
That's 501-3815.
Correct.
All right. We're going to have that up on the screen in just a few moments. So I implore everybody to get in contact with RASTA, Mr. Goodman, because he is here to help. He's here to help. If you are in need of assistance or need someone to contact, and we want to make sure we have it up here correctly, contact RASTA at 478. We're going to repeat the number one more time, if that's okay with you, RASTA. 478-501-3815. That's 478-501-3815. And you can also text him as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Wonderful. And we have one more final comment here from one of our viewers, and it's from Rhonda. She says, love it, wisdom, paying it forward. Keep paying it forward. All right. Appreciate it, Rhonda. And Shamika again saying, yes, yes. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You are now a new viewer to Therapy Ain't No Joke. And if this is your first time watching us, we are on every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have the number up once again, 478-501-3815. Contact RASTA and get in contact with him. He is here to help. Well, we really appreciate it, RASTA. I want to say this, everybody's success story, or everybody's story, let me take the word success out real quick. Everybody's story is different, and everybody's story is not the same as RASTA's. Of course, we have heard successful stories from people who have made it out of the system and have transformed their lives for the better. But then there are some who may not, or who haven't had the same type of success story as RASTA. And this is why Therapy Ain't No Joke is designed to bring people of his caliber, of his presence, to come on and show you that you don't have to keep putting yourself in various situations that's going to land you back into where you was at before. You was put on this earth to serve a purpose. You was put on this earth to help people that are in need. And RASTA is one of the many, if not the few people who have made it. And, just like us as humans, still struggle with adversity. That's the word I meant to use earlier, but still struggle with adversity. But at the same time, is a vessel in the community to help others that may not be able to help themselves. And of course, on a political level, because like I said, we are in a political season, he's doing whatever he can to get state lawmakers, Congress people, and people that are in political positions to push forward more on mental health and wellness and get things put into policies and in place for people that may not have the same kind of access or the right kind of access to treatment, to mental care, and to get some type of mental health assistance. So we really appreciate you, RASTA, for being one of the people that's doing that. And we got to definitely do a follow-up and bring you back on the, I was about to say the mental space, but on therapy ain't no joke. And give us some updates on what you're doing on, whatever new level you're going to be on. I mean, of course, you're going to still do what you do, but we would love to have you back on to give us some updates.
Not a problem. Anytime, whenever you need me, just call. If I can, I will. Not an issue.
All right. Well, thank you so much, RASTA. We really appreciate it. And much success, man. And, keep doing the great work and continue to maintain a great mental well-being. We really appreciate it.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Goodman himself, the one and only Jameel Goodman, a.k.a. Mr. Goodman, RASTA, right here on Therapy Ain't No Joke. We do this, like I said, each and every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can check us out on demand on Honey on YouTube. Become a subscriber to our YouTube channel at Beat Break Radio or on the Mental Space Live on YouTube and everywhere. We will have this episode up on Spotify and iHeart Podcast momentarily. We will be back next Wednesday night, same time, same radio station, and same channel, of course. And I gotta make sure I big up Ray Melody, like I said earlier, for the theme music that you are currently hearing in the background. We really appreciate you. You can follow her on social media at Ray Melody. We really appreciate the theme music in the background. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, continue to support the platform. Cash App, $ Reach One Communications to support the content, or go to reachoncommunications.com and click on Donate Now. If you are still watching us on Honey, we will have a rebroadcast of Soul Dates Live coming up in about less than an hour from now, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and more of your favorite programming on Honey 24/7 on Roku. And we are now on Amazon Fire TV, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. We are on Amazon Fire TV, Reach One Network app. We're going to have all that information and more on the next Therapy Ain't No Joke next Wednesday night. So follow my Amazon Fire TV users out there. You will get that information on how you can watch us on Amazon Fire TV. All right. Until the next time, take care and make sure that you and others maintain a great mental space. All right. I want to make sure I close the show out with that, but I got to make sure I close out the show with this information as well. Dial the Crisis and Suicide Lifeline number 988 if you or someone you know is facing a mental health crisis. Okay. That is the 3-digit number to call, 988, the Crisis and Suicide Lifeline. And you can also contact NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-6264, or send them an email to info@nami.org. Operational hours are from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but you can still send them an email to info@nami.org. All right, this has been Therapy Ain't No Joke with Sean Garvey. See you all next week on another show, Soul Dates Live. We do have a new episode coming up in a few days, and then Therapy Ain't No Joke, and then the Beat Break Morning Show. We will be back. DJ Roland is coming back from Baltimore, and he's going to be hanging out with me. All right, until the next time, we are out of here. Okay, take care, and take care of each other. We'll see you. Peace.
to access all types of information that keeps us free as a nation.
No.
Today, there are real threats to press freedom.
Residential areas by...
And you're right to know about the world around us. Look, some threats are obvious, some are easy to miss, but they all put our way of life at risk. We must defend against all of these threats, no matter what kind of news is important to you.
Justified putting American troops in harm's way.
That's a great question.
We must protect our right to know before it's too late. Understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org.